and Qari, or is it Mughani or Munshid? Adil Kirat. Adil comes from a family of Fawakih students. He's the third in a generous. And then Sidi Ibrahim Shahudi is a dear teacher of ours here. And then obviously Shaykh Waleed Mosaad, who's visiting us from New Jersey for the weekend. So he just arrived. He gave the khutbah at Adams, which some of you were there. And we're very excited. We wanted the theme to be on Isra wal Mi'raj. That's the prophetic ascent. Given that this 10-day intensive that many of you are in is focused on the prayer, the epitome and the peak of the prophetic spiritual journey was the Isra wal Mi'raj. So we wanted to celebrate that. There will be some Quranic ayat regarding that. There will be some nasheed about the Prophet, and then Shaykh Waleed will give the keynote address on that journey and what it means and some of the spiritual dimensions and realities we can imbibe from that experience, inshallah. So thank you for joining us, and we'll get started with some nasheed. Shaykh Abdul Kareem needs to leave first, so we're doing that first. He'll recite some Quran, and then we'll get started, and then we'll take a break for Isha prayer later on for whoever hasn't prayed, inshallah. Okay, Jazakallah khair. So there's no mic, but I think this is just for the recording, inshallah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم هو الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله وكفى بالله شهيدا محمد رسول الله والذين معه أشداء على الكفار رحماء بينهم تراهم ركعا سجدا يبتغون فضلا من الله ورضوانا سيماهم في وجوههم من أثر السجود ذلك مثلهم في التوراة ومثلهم في الإنجيل كزرع أخرج شطأه فآزره فاستغلظ فاستوى على سوقه يعجب الزراع ليغيظ بهم الكفار وعد الله الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات منهم مغفرة وعد الله الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات منهم مغفرة وأجرا عظيما صدق الله العظيم. مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم. مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم. يا خير من يمم العافون ساحته سعيا وفوق متون الأينق الرسوم. مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم. ومن هو الآيات الكبرى لمعتبر ومن هو النعمة العظمى لمغتنم. مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم. سريت من حرم ليلا إلى حرم سريت من حرم ليلا إلى حرم كما سرى البدر في داج من الظلم. مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم. وبت ترقى إلى أن نلت منزلة وبت ترقى إلى أن نلت منزلة من قاب قوسين لم تدرك ولم ترمي. مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم. وقدمتك جميع الأنبياء بها وقدمتك جميع الأنبياء بها والرسل تقديم مخدوم على خدم. مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم. وأنت تخترق السبع الطباق بهم وأنت تخترق السبع الطباق بهم في موكب كنت فيه صاحب العالم. مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم. حتى إذا لم تدع شأوا لمستبقين حتى إذا لم تدع شأوا لمستبق من الدنو ولا مرقا لمستنيب. مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم. صلى الله على محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم صلى الله على محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. طابت الجنة وفاحت وبسر الخلد باحت ولها الأنوار لاحت ولها الأنوار لاحت بالحبيب مولاي محمد صلى الله على محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم صلى الله على محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم أعبقت مسكا وعنبر واكتست ذرا وجوهر أعبقت مسكا وعنبر واكتست ذرا وجوهر وازدادت حسنا ومنظر بالحبيب مولاي محمد صلى الله على محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم صلى الله على محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ربي واجعل والدينا في نعيم خالدين واسقهم حوضا معينا واسقهم حوضا معينا بالحبيب مولاي محمد صلى الله على محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم صلى الله على محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم طلع البدر علينا من ثنيات الوداع وجب الشكر علينا ما دعا لله داع أيها المبعوث فينا جئت بالأمر المطاع جئت شرفت المدينة جئت شرفت المدينة مرحبا يا خير داع طلع البدر علينا من ثنيات الوداع وجب الشكر علينا ما دعا لله داع قالت أقمار الدياجي قل لأرباب الغرام كل من يعشق محمد كل من يعشق محمد في أمان وسلام طلع البدر علينا من ثنيات الوداع وجب الشكر علينا ما دعا لله داع ربنا صل على من حل في خير البقاع اسبل الستر علينا اسبل الستر علينا يا رحيما بالمطاع طلع البدر علينا من ثنيات الوداع وجب الشكر علينا ما دعا لله داع الحمد لله والشكر لله الحمد لله والشكر لله أزكى صلاتي وسلامي لرسول الله أزكى صلاتي وسلامي لرسول الله هذه المدينة الله فيها نبينا الله هذه المدينة الله فيها نبينا الله هذه المدينة الله فيها نبينا الله أحمد محمد يا سيدي نور عيني يا أحمد محمد يا سيدي نور عيني يا الحمد لله والشكر لله الحمد لله والشكر لله أزكى صلاتي وسلامي لرسول الله أزكى صلاتي وسلامي لرسول الله القبة الخضراء الله نبراس النضراء الله القبة الخضراء الله نبراس النضراء الله القبة الخضراء الله نبراس النضراء الله فيها أبو الزهراء يا سيدي الهاشمية فيها أبو الزهراء يا سيدي الهاشمية الحمد لله والشكر لله الحمد لله والشكر لله أزكى صلاتي وسلامي لرسول الله أزكى صلاتي وسلامي لرسول الله إن المساجد الله فيها الفوائد الله إن المساجد الله فيها الفوائد الله قم فيها عابد يا سيدي مع صدق النية قم فيها عابد يا سيدي مع صدق النية الحمد لله والشكر لله الحمد لله والشكر لله أزكى صلاتي وسلامي لرسول الله أزكى صلاتي وسلامي لرسول الله النبي صلوا عليه صلوات الله عليه النبي صلوا عليه صلوات الله عليه وينال البركات كل من صلى عليه وينال البركات كل من صلى عليه النبي يا حاضرين اعلموا علم اليقين النبي يا حاضرين اعلموا علم اليقين أن رب العالمين أوجب الصلاة عليه أن رب العالمين أوجب الصلاة عليه النبي صلوا عليه صلوات الله عليه النبي صلوا عليه صلوات الله عليه وينال البركات كل من صلى عليه وينال البركات كل من صلى عليه النبي يا من حضر النبي خير البشر النبي يا من حضر النبي خير البشر من دان له القمر والشجر سلم عليه النبي صلوا عليه صلوات الله عليه النبي صلوا عليه صلوات الله عليه وينال البركات كل من صلى عليه وينال البركات كل من صلى عليه صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما حتى تنالوا جنة ونعيما الله يجزي من يصلي مرة عشرا الله يجزي من يصلي مرة عشرا ويبقى في النعيم مقيما أدم الصلاة على الحبيب محمد أدم الصلاة على الحبيب محمد فقبولها حتما بغير تردد أعمالنا بين القبول وردها إلا الصلاة على الحبيب محمد أعمالنا بين القبول وردها إلا الصلاة على الحبيب محمد يا إمام الرسل يا سندي يا سندي أنت باب الله معتمدي ففي دنياي وآخرتي الله الله يا رسول الله خذ بيدي ما رأت عين وليس ترى مثل طه في الورى بشرا خير من فقا سرى طاهر الأخلاق والشيب يا إمام الرسل يا سندي يا سندي أنت باب الله معتمدي ففي دنياي وآخرتي يا رسول الله خذ بيدي يا رسول الله يا حبيب الله أنت لي عون يوم ألقى الله بيت كل بيت أنت ساكنه غير محتاجين إلى السرج يا إمام الرسل يا سندي الله الله أنت باب الله معتمدي ففي دنياي وآخرتي يا رسول الله خذ بيدي يا رسول الله يا حبيب الله دارك الملهوف يا عظيم الجاه ومريض أنت عائده قد أتاه الله بالفرج يا إمام الرسل يا سندي الله الله أنت باب الله معتمدي ففي دنياي وآخرتي يا رسول الله خذ بيدي الله 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 لا إله إلا الله 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 لا إله إلا الله أتيناك بالفقر يا صاد وله بحبك إذ هو أقصى المنى الله 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 لا إله إلا الله وعودتنا كل فاضل العسى يدوم الذي منك عودتنا الله 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 لا إله إلا الله ويا ربي صل على المصطفى صلاة تكون شفاء لنا الله 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 لا إله إلا الله 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 محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. نحن فيه نحن في روضات رسول حضور طالبين الرضا وحسن قبول الله 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 يا مولانا الله 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 بفضلك كل جئنا يا خير من إليه الملاذ بانكسار وذلة وذهول الله 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 يا مولانا الله 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 بفضلك كل فاسأل الله فينا كل عدايا لننال المنى في وقت الحلول الله 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 يا مولانا الله 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 بفضلك كل لك قدر عظيم ليس يضاهى ورسالة تفوق كل رسول الله 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 يا مولانا الله 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 بفضلك كل أنت باب الإله في كل خير من أتى فاز بالرضا والوصول الله 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 يا مولانا الله 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 بفضلك كل سر في الأنبياء قد أتاهم من علاكم مؤيدا بنقول الله 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 يا مولانا الله 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 بفضلك كلي قد تشفعت في أموري إلهي بالنبي المشفع المقبول الله 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 يا مولانا الله 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 بفضلك كل من حط رحله بكريم إن لأقصى المنى وكل السور الله 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 يا مولانا الله 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 بفضلك كلي قد شكرنا الإله في كل وقت حيث من بزورة للرسول الله 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 يا مولانا الله 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 بفضلك كلي وكذاك لكل من في بقيع من صحاب كذاك نسل البتول الله 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 يا مولانا الله 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 بفضلك كلي وكذاك لكل زوج وبنت وابن منجي الأنام يوم الحلول الله 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 يا مولانا الله 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 بفضلك كلي وكذاك لكل من في أحد من شهيد كذاك عم الرسول الله 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 يا مولانا الله 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 بفضلك كلي قد طلبنا بهم تمام السلام في مسير لأرضنا والدخول الله 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 يا مولانا الله 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 بفضلك كلي وطلبنا النجاة في يوم حشر وسلاما بكل فظ الجهور الله 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 يا مولانا الله 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 بفضلك كلي ربي صلي على النبي وآله وصحاب وتابع بشمول الله 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 يا مولانا الله 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 بفضلك كلي خير البرية نظر إلي خير البرية نظر إلي ما أنت إلا كنز العطية أنت إلا كنز العطية يا بحر فضل وتجعل يا بحر فضل وتجعل جود لي بوصل قبل المنية جود لي بوصل قبل المنية حاشاك تغفل عن وتبخل حاشاك تغفل عن وتبخل يا خير مرسل ارحم شجيا يا خير مرسل ارحم شجيا أهديك حبي صلاة ربي أهديك حبي صلاة ربي ما دام قلبي بالذكر حيا ما دام قلبي بالذكر حيا خير البرية نظر إلي خير البرية مر إلي ما أنت إلا كنز العطية ما أنت إلا كنز العطية سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما باركت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة.
Jazakallah khair for that beautiful nasheed. Shaykh Abdul Kareem, mashallah, has been in the area for a little while. He is a world-renowned munshid. Actually, he's invited all over the place. At Zaytuna, Ta'lif, they invited him to RS. He wasn't able to go. And in Morocco, he would recite for the King of Morocco as well. And so he's very well respected in Morocco as well. And he's a qari. He teaches Quran as well as recites very beautifully. So if anyone's interested in Quran lessons, even for beginners, he teaches all backgrounds. So you can speak to me about that. Now, Shaykh Waleed, we're waiting to hear him. Mashallah, he's been studying for a number of years overseas. He spent a number of years in Al-Fath, Mahad Al-Fath in Damascus, and he was also studying with a number of the ulama in Damascus, and he spent a number of years in Abu Dhabi working with the Taba Foundation, with Habib Ali Jifri and others. They're doing a lot of great work and teaching. He has a majlis in Dubai, he teaches as well. And then most recently he was in Cairo, where he's studied with some of the ulama there. His family is still currently in Cairo. He's originally has Egyptian background. And we're very fortunate to now have him based in the US. And we hope this is the beginning of many programs we'll have learning from him. In addition to his specialty, which he's doing a PhD in Aqidah, on some topics regarding to Aqidah, and Ibn Dardir from Egypt, from Exeter University in UK, while being based still in the US. He is also Maliki, so I've got a special connection to him. We attract Malikis at Fawakih, mashallah. So we look forward to hearing from him, and I'll leave him, and we'll Shaykh Abdul Kareem was very generous with his time, but I think he may have to leave. He has another commitment, so as long as he can stay, ahlan wa sahlan. When he needs to leave, we appreciate him being here, inshallah. Jazakallah khair.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد سيدنا مولانا وحبيبنا وقرة أعيننا وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه وذرياته ومن اهتدى بهديه إلى يوم الدين ثم أما بعد. Can everyone in the back hear me, or should I raise my voice? Raise it. Volume up. So I've been asked to speak tonight a little bit about the Prophet's ascension, al-Isra wal Mi'raj. And I think to put it in context, you can't really do that unless you kind of have some idea of what happened before al-Isra and Mi'raj, specifically in the Prophet ﷺ, his lifetime, and then even before that. So typically we think of Mi'raj, ascension, as him rising up to the heavens, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But he's not the first prophet who was in the heavens. The first prophet in the heavens was our father, all of us, Adam alayhi salam. And Adam alayhi salam was in the Jannah. And so was our mother, Sayyidah Hawa, or Eve. And they were there for a while in the Jannah. And then if you go by maybe the biblical narrative or the Judeo-Christian narrative, it's much different than ours. Even though the Quran describes in hubut or habata, or they descended down to earth, and in other narratives it's called a fall, both physically and perhaps spiritually. In the Muslim narrative, it definitely was not a fall in the spiritual sense. In other words, Adam alayhi salam and his wife, our mother, coming down to earth was not a punishment. Not for them, not for us. So there is no original sin for us. There is no sort of collective guilt that we all feel because they ate from the forbidden tree. And in essence, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about Adam alayhi salam in the Quran, and he tells the angels what he's about to do, he said, "Inni ja'ilun fil ard khalifa." Right? And the khalifa, the steward or the vice regent or the representative, however you want to translate it, that's a maqam, a station of honor, not of dishonor, not of a fall, of someone who's being dishonored. So Adam alayhi salam, Hawa alayhi salam, that was ikram. It was ennoblement that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put them in the earth and gave them this maqam of being his stewards upon the earth, and entrusted the earth to him and her and to all of us. All the human beings or all of their progeny that would follow after that. And so you have to see that one of the things that preceded immediately this vicegerency being given to Adam alayhi salam is that when they ate from the forbidden tree, and it was Iblis, la'anahullah, Satan, who enticed them or tricked them, and we hold Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah in our theology and our aqidah that all of the prophets are infallible and sinless, and the majority opinion is even before prophethood and definitely after prophethood. And so the Quran describes it in different terms. Fanasi, he forgot, or there was a moment of lapse, but it was not a purposefully done transgression or disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there are several different ta'wilat or interpretations of how that actually went about, which I don't want to get into much detail now. If people have questions, we can answer them later. But the important part is that when he went down to the earth, what preceded immediately was a tawbah. فَتَابَ عَلَيْهِ. So Adam alayhi salam and Hawa, right? We also don't have the narrative where the woman is enticed the man and then she's the one who more of the mistaken. None of that. You know, when the Quran talks about it, those of you who are studying Arabic in Fawakih, when you have alif al-tathniya, right? When you have the pronoun that's an alif, it means two people did it. فَأَكَلَا, right, مِنَ الشَّجَرَةِ فَأَكَلَا مِنْهَا. They both ate. Didn't even give an order, but the pronoun is going back to both of them. So it was a collective thing, both of them did. And one is not blamed of the other. And as we said, they are both blameless in a sense for that happened. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed that to happen, and it was an ennoblement when they went down to the earth. And so after the tawbah, after the repentance, he was ennobled. So even though it was a physical descent, it was a spiritual ascent. And I mention this because if we look to the story of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we see something similar. If you look to the year that preceded the Isra and Mi'raj, commonly referred to as Am al-Huzn, the year of sadness. And that was the year when three significant things happened preceding the Isra and Mi'raj. One was the death of his wife Khadija radiallahu anha. One was the death of his uncle Abu Talib. And one was his visit to Ta'if and what happened there. So three very difficult occurrences happening all within a span of a few months of each other, directly preceding the Isra and Mi'raj. And so we see the epitome of humility with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. After he left Ta'if, and even the smallest of children and vagrants and vagabonds and all sorts of people throwing rocks at him and, you know, saying all vile types of things to him, he still had the rahmah, right? He still had this humbleness about him. He didn't seek revenge upon them, right? And he retired to the Hadiqat Addas in Ta'if, which still is there today, right? And you know, later on he told to some of the people, he said, you know, they're not reviling me, right? They're reviling mudhammaman, walisa Muhammadan, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because one of the things they used to say is twist his name. Muhammad in Arabic, as you know, means the oft-praised one, right? From hammada, which is takthir. So he was the oft-praised one. So they would say mudhammam, min al-dham. And them is the opposite of praise. It's to revile. But that's not his name. So what they're reviling is not him, something else. Some image they have, some impression they have of him, but not Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when he retired to the bustan, or the fruit field of Addas, this is when he said the very famous dua, which is beautiful in its humility and its simplicity. اللهم إليك أشكو ضعف قوتي وقلة حيلتي وهواني على الناس يا أرحم الراحمين أنت رب المستضعفين وأنت ربي إلى من تكلني إلى بعيد يتهجمني أم إلى عدو ملكته أمري إن لم يكن بك علي غضب فلا أبالي غير أن عافيتك هي أوسع لي أعوذ بنور وجهك الذي أشرقت له الظلمات وصلح عليه أمر الدنيا والآخرة أن يحل بي غضبك أو أن ينزل بي سخطك لك العتبى حتى ترضى ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بك. Right? So he doesn't complain to anyone. لما أنت, to you Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, أشكو ضعف قوتي, my weakness and my inability and my people taking me lightly. هواني على الناس. يا أرحم الراحمين, you are the Lord of the oppressed and the weak. Shall you put my affair in someone far away that will attack me, or an enemy that you have given my matter up to them? If there is no anger from you towards me, then I don't care. فَلَا أُبَالِي. Right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's reminding us here, the Prophet ﷺ, that he's accepting of his difficult situation. He tried many times, not just in Ta'if, but he had the year that people came from all over the Arabian Peninsula to Mecca, where they were making the Hajj. Of course, before it became Islamic once again. But it was a time that they all gathered. And many of the Quraysh chieftains would go on and say, don't listen to this man, he's a dreamer, he's a magician, he is this, he is that. Stay away from him. And also he would find these type of reviling responses. So here he recognizes this, but he recognizes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ultimately has his affair. And that he's placing all of his affair with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that it's by the countenance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that the whole universe has been enlightened. So if all that we want is the rida, is the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then nothing else really matters. وَلَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِكَ. Right? And that's the sir. That's the secret. Our ulama, they told us that the secret to sincerity, التبري من الحول والقوة. So the secret to having sincerity is to realize that you have no hawl or quwwah, which means potential or active enactment of your own acts. All of it goes back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Once you start placing things and saying, I did, I will do, I will plan, I will make, I will gather, I, me, and then you are investing in your own self a quwwah that's not there, then this leads to takabbur, this leads to istikbar, this leads to arrogance, right? And it won't not lead to izz. It won't lead to dignity. It won't lead to rafa', to Allah raising you. It will lead to Allah debasing you. So only humility can lead to ascension, can lead to you being raised, which sounds almost counterintuitive, right? Because we think, well, you know, if I want to be a dignified raised person, I have to stand up for myself and I have to, you know, stretch my muscles and pump my chest and so forth. But not in this paradigm, not with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Bidalil that afterwards, as he was going home, making his way towards Mecca from Ta'if, that Jibreel alayhi salam came to him and said, if you like, I can ask the angels of the mountain, Al-Akhshabaini, to take them and, you know, destroy them on top of Quraysh, if you like, if you seek vengeance. And he said, no, don't seek vengeance. He said, I am hopeful that from amongst them will come those who will worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it was as he said. Remember, the Prophet ﷺ, he's mujib al-da'wah, mustajab al-da'wah. His dua is answered. His hopes are answered. One of them was asked, what is the most hopeful ayah? Arja ayah fil Qur'an. Right, when you read it, you have so much hope, like, oh, Allah can never chastise me. He'll take me into paradise. And one of them said, وَلَسَوْفَ يُعْطِيكَ رَبُّكَ فَتَرْضَى. And your Lord will give you and you will be pleased. And this addresses to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Allah is seeking to please the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Prophet would not be pleased with any one of his ummah spending any amount of time in hellfire. Right? هو الشافع المشفع. If he had his way, no one would go there. None of us, none of his ummah would go there. So they said, هذه أرجى آية. This is the most hopeful ayah, the most hopeful verse that there is in the Quran. So, Ta'if, Isra al-Ma'raj, according to the chronicles, most likely happened about a year, somewhere on a year before the Hijrah. And there's two narrations of where he was when it began. One that he was in his house, and the more popular one, that he was in Al-Kaaba, in the Haram. And if those of you have been there, you'll see that there's something called Al-Hatim or Hijr Ismail, which is the semicircular area that's directly opposite the Black Stone on the other side. And it's that area, actually, the Kaaba used to be, its original qawa'id was rectangular, not cubical, as it is now. So it was more elongated than it was in its cubical form. That's why when we make tawaf, we go around the hijr. We don't cross in between. If you do that, your tawaf doesn't count, because the original Kaaba actually includes all of that. But that area was an area that sometimes they would sit and reside or even lay down. And so one evening the Prophet ﷺ was actually laying down there, and the riwayah says, بَيْنَ رَجُلَيْن, between two men. But those two men were Sayyidina Hamza with Sayyidina Ja'far ibn Abi Talib. So one was his cousin and one was his uncle, that he was there. The other narration, as I said, also included was that he was in his house and that the angels came to him then. And the angels that came to him were three, Jibreel, Mikael, and they said a third, which they generally acknowledge as Israfil. And Israfil will be the one who blows in the trumpet on the Day of Judgment. So those three came to him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and one of the first things that they did is what's called shaqq as-sadr. And this had been done before to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam when they opened his chest and removed his heart and then washed it 3 times in a vessel with Zamzam water. So most of the ulama say it happened 3 times before that. The first time being when he was a very young boy, when he was in the Bani Sa'da and the Halima Sa'diyya. Halima Sa'diyya was his nursing mother, as was the practice of the Arabs at the time, the city Arabs at least, those who lived in Mecca. They liked to send their children for the first 2 nursing years to somewhere out in the Badiyah, somewhere out in the countryside, thinking that it's sort of a purer and cleaner environment. And the story of Halima is a whole other story into itself. But he had been there for a while, and this is when the 2 angels came to him, and as a young boy they had done shaqq as-sadr. The other time they say when he was 10 years old, another time when he actually reached initial stages of manhood. There's some difference of opinion about that and how many it was, but this time during the Isra and Mi'raj. And the way we look at this, or I look at it at least, is the Prophet ﷺ had to be prepared for what was to come. Because what we're going to understand later is there is a point when he's in the Mi'raj, Jibreel leaves him, the Archangel Gabriel, and he says, I can't go with you where you're going. If I were to go with you where you're going, I would be completely burned. I would dissolve. So the Prophet ﷺ, he went to a place not even the angels could go to. Not even the angels, not even the highest forms of creation, something that he was sent to. So he was prepared. And he was prepared in this way that his heart was washed 3 times. The first time, they said, was washed with the water of rahmah, and then the water of hikmah, and then the water of asrar or ilm. So with mercy and with wisdom and with secrets, his heart was washed. And then he was in a prepared state for what was to come after that in the Mi'raj. So after they had done that, it's also mentioned that the Khatm al-Nubuwah, the seal of prophethood, or the seal of prophecy, was placed on his, behind his left shoulder, or behind his right shoulder, or what would be directly behind his heart. So the left side, so the left shoulder, directly behind his heart. And it said that he was either born with it, or that it was actually placed at this time. And it's about, they say, a quail-size egg, like a hamama, or very small, about that big. That was behind his shoulder, and this was the seal of prophethood. So the seal is also symbolic, right? Because now you can think of a seal also as a seal of guardianship, a seal of protection. All of this in preparation for the Prophet ﷺ for his Mi'raj. And then brought before him was the buraq, which was the winged horse-like animal that had 2 wings on either side from the back legs. And the buraq is not an animal of earth. It's of another realm completely. And of course, al-qudra ilahiyya salihah. Yani Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can do as He pleases. Had He wished, He could have sent him in an instant to Bayt al-Maqdis, to Jerusalem, or on the back of anything. But it was the back of this buraq. Some say he was the first to ride al-buraq. Others say other prophets rode before him, such as Ibrahim, alayhi salam. Different narrations. But the important part is that the buraq was the winged animal brought before him, which he rode to Bayt al-Maqdis. And just as a side note, some of them mention that there are 9 other animals in our tradition. Generally speaking, the theology in our tradition is that all animals, they don't have an afterlife. They kind of serve their purpose in this life and then they become dust or dirt. But there are 9 others mentioned who actually go on to paradise. And they're mentioned in the Quran. For instance, we said the buraq, the camel, the naqa of Salih, right, which was the object of a miracle, the donkey of Al-Aziz, the one that came back to life, Surah Al-Baqarah, the Ijl of Al-Khalil of Ibrahim, the Ijl, or the young cow that he prepared for the angels as his guests, Kabsh Ismail, so the ram that was going to be slaughtered instead of Ismail or Ishaq, the hudhud, bird, and the ant of Sulaiman, right, Surah Sulaiman, the dog of Ahl al-Kahf, Ashab al-Kahf, right, where he was the 8th outside, the whale of Yunus, Ibn Matta, and the cow of Bani Israel, the one that they were supposed to slaughter, and they picked the golden cow, the golden calf, the best that they had. So those 10 altogether, they said, will be amongst the animals of paradise, in addition to any other animals that obviously are originally of paradise. So we got on the back of the Buraq, and then they made their way, and they came to this area where they saw some palm trees. And there weren't so many palm trees in Mecca. Mecca didn't have palm trees and dates and things like that. They made their living by trade. And so Jibreel told the Buraq, come down here, and he asked the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, come down to this place and pray. And then he prayed, and then he left. Then once again, when they were on their way, he asked the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, do you know where you went and where you prayed? And Jibreel said, you prayed in the place of Al-Muhajirah. You prayed in Taiba, or in Taba, which is the name of Al-Madinah, ala sahibu afdal salatu wassalam. So the first prayer that he was doing on his way was the one in Al-Madinah. And he said it's Al-Muhajirah. Yeah, in other words, the place of your coming immigration. Where you will immigrate to will be Al-Madinah. So they kept heading north. Medina is north of Mecca. So they went on their way. And then there was another area, and the Buraq went down again. And Muhammad ﷺ was asked to pray in this place. And he prayed in this place. And then the same question, do you know where you prayed? He said, tell me. He said, you prayed by the tree of Madian. The Prophet Musa alayhi salam, right? This is where after he went to the well and he helped the 2 daughters of Sayyidina Shu'aib when he married one of them later on, then he leaned against the tree, and this is where he said, Inni anzaltu min khayrin anzalta faqir, right? And he made that dua. That which you have sent of good for me, I am in need, complete need. So this was a Mubarak place, the place of Madian. And then he went on his way. And again, the Buraq went down for the 3rd time. And then the same question, do you know where you prayed, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? And he said, this is Tur Sayna. This is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke to Musa alayhi salam. Also somewhere in the Aradi Sham, somewhere in Greater Syria. And that was the 3rd. Then it went down for a 4th time and came back up after the Prophet ﷺ had prayed. And he was asked the same question, do you know where you prayed? And he was told, you have prayed in Bethlehem, the birthplace of Isa alayhi salam, of Jesus alayhi salam. And then finally, to Bayt al-Maqdis, to Jerusalem, to Al-Quds. So how many prayers did he pray? 5. The same exact number of prayers that were going to be made obligatory on the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and his ummah, those 5 prayers. So the blessing of praying in those 5 places, they're Mubarak places. Place where Allah SWT spoke to one of his prophets, where one of them was born from an immaculate conception. The place where the blessings came to Musa when he made that dua. And of course, Bayt al-Maqdis, one of the greatest places on earth. So after they arrive to Bayt al-Maqdis, the Prophet ﷺ prayed 2 rak'ahs in the masjid. And then he was joined by over 124,000 prophets and messengers in that area. And this is where he led them in prayer. So all of the prophets and messengers that ever lived, he led them in prayer. That whole saha, that whole area that was there was completely filled with Anbiya and Rasul. And the one who led them in the prayer was Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you read some of the Many of our ulama wrote about their travels to Jerusalem. You can read about it. Ibn al-Arabi talks about it, Nabulsi, Ibn Jubair. Al-Ghazali also spent significant time in Jerusalem. And they said it has a sort of anwar, a light to it, a spirituality to it you don't find anywhere else. Different than Mecca and Medina. Different than Mecca and Medina. Something quite distinct about Bayt al-Maqdis, about al-Quds. And inshallah we'll have the opportunity to visit it in the best state. The best state that we can visit it, inshallah. So after he led them in prayer, he was shown some mashahid. He was shown some things of the next life. The riwayat are not clear about whether he was actually shown these in heaven or in hellfire, but he was shown these things of the next life. One of the things that he picked up on was the smell. And he said to Jibreel alayhi salam, "Ma hadi ar-ra'ah at-tayyiba?" What is this most beautiful smell? This aroma that's beautiful that I'm smelling like misk. And he said, this is the smell of the mashita of Fir'aun. This is the smell of, kings and palaces. People didn't used to comb their own hair. They had people who did that for them. So she was the one who used to comb the hair and tend to the needs, sort of the handmaiden of the women of the house of Fir'aun. And she was the handmaiden of one of the daughters of Fir'aun. And so one day she was combing the hair of the daughter of Fir'aun and something fell and she said something like Subhanallah or La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. And then the daughter asked her, do you believe in a God besides my father? Because what did Fir'aun say? Ana rabbukumul a'la. That's what he said. So when she said that, the mashita, she said back to her, yes, I do. She said, should I tell my father of what you say? She said, go ahead and tell your father of what I say. So then Fir'aun came in his jabarut and his takabbur, and he said, do you say that there's another Lord besides me? And she said, yes, I do say there's another Lord besides me. Then he got her husband and her children, 2 children. She had one who was an infant and one who was a little bit older. And he brought all before them, and they all said, we see this, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is your Lord and our Lord. Your Lord and my Lord. So he prepared this huge brass or copper, like a big, huge kettle that you can fit human beings into and fill it with boiling oil. This was how Fir'aun chastised people. He would throw them in this thing. He did the same thing to the Sahara. The magicians who had that mubaraza with Musa alayhi salam that day, and then they said, we believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he also cast them into this. So he did the same with these people. First the husband, then the other child, and then it was the mother and the infant's turn. And then the infant spoke. And he said to her, لا تقاعسي يا أمّا. Don't worry, go ahead. لأنك أنت على الحق. You are on truth and they are on falsehood. And they mentioned that this was one of the infants, one of the few infants in history actually spoke as an infant. The other one that we all know quite well being Isa ibn Maryam alayhi salam also spoke as an infant. And the first words he uttered were, Inni Abdullah, I am the slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this mihna, this test, was a smell that even hundreds, if not thousands of years later, the Prophet ﷺ was able to pick up on it in this mashhad as he was making his way towards the heavens. And so at that point, the Prophet ﷺ began his mi'raj. And mi'raj just means ascending. And most of the ulama say that the mi'raj was not done on the back of the buraq. The buraq was tied, what they call the Wailing Wall right now, but what we call the place where the buraq was tied. So he was tied in that area and he didn't take him up. What he was taken up with was ma'arij. So not just one mi'raj, but several ascendancies. And they were more, you can think of it as a type of staircase. And there were 10 of them. So the first 7 corresponded to the Sab'a Samawat, the first 7, where he meant those prophets we'll mention in a second. And then there were 3 more. The 8th being Sidratul Muntaha, the farthest low tree. The 9th being where the Prophet ﷺ heard the writing of the pen, which was al-Lawh al-Mahfuz, the writing of the sacred tablet. And then the 10th and the highest, al-Arsh, the throne of Ar-Rahman. So he made his ascendancy on this mi'raj, this ma'arij. So he comes to the first sama, and there, Jibreel, before reaching the first sama, he asks for permission to enter. And then the angel who is in charge of those who enter lets them in. Then they arrive at the first heaven, and again he has permission to enter, and then the man who was there said, "Who is with you?" to Jibreel. So an indication, this is not Jibreel's first time coming here, but the person who's with him, who they sensed, wasn't here before. And said, "This is Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam." And then he said, "Has he been sent as a messenger? Has he already been sent as a messenger?" And he said, "Yes, he has been sent as a messenger." Then he said, "Ahlan bi ibnin." Ahlan, or welcome to my son. And this was Adam alayhi salam in the first heaven, in the lowest heaven. And we're all collectively the sons and daughters of Adam alayhi salam. And so he welcomed him, and he said, remember he asked him, "Has he already been sent?" Right? Because one of the beautiful things about Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is all of the prophets knew about him, and they all, part of their theology that they came with is that I am your prophet, but the final and last prophet coming after me will be Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And each single one of them told their people this. Every single one, from Adam all the way to Isa alayhi salam, all of the prophets that came beforehand. So then they ascended to the second heaven. And then again, they asked for permission to enter. And then they were asked, "Who is that with you?" And they said, "Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam." But here he found two prophets. Here he found Sayyidina Isa ibn Maryam alayhi salam and Sayyidina Yahya ibn Zakaria. So John and Jesus. And according to the Islamic tradition, they're cousins. Either cousins or uncle and nephew. Because the mother of Jesus, Maryam bint Imran, was the sister of the wife of Zakaria alayhi salam. And Zakaria was the one who had the kafala, who took charge of Maryam in her infancy, because the mother of Maryam had pledged her what she thought would be a son, but turned out to be a daughter, to service of the temple in worship. And so he was the caretaker of Maryam when she was in that monastery. Anyway, so they were cousins, and they said, "Welcome to a fellow brother." And they gave him the welcoming, and then he went on to the third heaven. And in the third heaven, the same question was asked, and here he met Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, Joseph alayhi salam. And then the fourth heaven, where he went, and there he met Sayyidina Idris alayhi salam. And then the fifth, where he met Harun alayhi salam. And then the sixth, where he met Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. And then the seventh, the last heaven, where he met his father and fellow prophet Abraham alayhi salam. And then he was taken to Sidratul Muntaha, the lote tree, the farthest lote tree, which is at the beginning, the base of paradise. And then he saw, as we mentioned, some of the mashahid, some of the things that one sees in paradise, and some of the things that one sees in hellfire. And then at that point, Jibreel said, "I can go no farther than this. I cannot pass this point." So the Prophet ﷺ ascended by himself, where he heard in the ninth Mi'raj, the ninth ascendancy, where he heard the pens of the Lawh al-Mahfuz, as they are recording, either recording the deeds of people as they're being done, or sort of recording in time of all that was to be and that ever was. Two different interpretations, Allahu A'lam, which is the closest one. And then finally he ascended to Al-Arsh, to the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where most of the ulama hold that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So in the same manner that he spoke to Musa, to Moses, in Tur Sayna, in Sina, he also spoke to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam spoke to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he said to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala something along the lines, "You have given Musa the Torah, and you have taught Jesus the Torah, and you have Alant al-Hadid li Dawood, and you gave him the knowledge of how to be a steelsmith and build armor and swords and shields and so forth. And you have made Musa Kalim Allah, Musa, the one that is spoken to, and you have made Ibrahim Khalil Allah, the one that is the close friend and confidant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he went on and he said, you have given these many things. So in essence, he was asking, what have you left for the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? And Allah responded back, Ja'altuka habibi. I have made you the beloved of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I have given your ummah khayra ummatin ukhrij linnas, that you are the best ummah that will ever be. And I have given you as-sab' al-mathani wal-Qur'an al-azim. And I have given you the masajid tuhura, that the whole earth is a masjid. And I have given you the last ayahs of Surah Al-Baqarah. And I have given you, and I have given you, and he went on, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with all the things that have been given to this ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then at the end he said, وَفَرَضْتُ عَلَى أُمَّتِكَ 50 صَلَاةً. And I have made upon your ummah 50 prayers. 50 daily prayers. And this is where the 5 prayers, they started as 50, were made obligatory on this ummah. And so the Prophet ﷺ ascended to Ibrahim, back to Ibrahim in the 7th, and Sayyidina Ibrahim stayed silent. He didn't say anything about the 50 prayers. Then he went to Musa, alayhi salam. And Musa had long, arduous experience with people who were not listening to him. He said, 50 is too much. Go back to your Lord and tell him to soften it, to lessen it. So he went back and then it became 45. And he said, no, wait, 45 is still too much. So this went on back and forth until it became 5. So the Prophet ﷺ came back to Musa ﷺ and said, they're 5 now. He said, no, that's still too much. You should go back. He said, this is what I have been pleased with for my ummah. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed not just 5 prayers, but 5 prayers like 50. So each deed that is done counts as 10 deeds. So if you make intention for something and you actually go through with it, it counts as 10. If you make intention for something and you don't go through with it, it still counts for you. These are all khasa'is. These are all blessings from that blessed mi'raj that we were able to, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was to give us through our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam ascended back down, and then he rode on the Buraq back to Mecca. And the next day, he was in a state of a little bit of bewilderment. He wasn't sure what to tell the people. Who would believe him that he went to Bayt al-Maqdis and came back and saw all the things that he saw and so forth? So actually, he didn't meet any of the Muslims first. First came to him Abu Lahab. Right? And Abu Lahab said, something seems up with you. What's going on? What's the story? So the Prophet ﷺ said, I actually went to Bayt al-Maqdis. I went to Jerusalem last night and I came back. And I saw this and this and this and so forth. And so Abu Lahab said, oh, that's very interesting. Would you like to come and tell all the rest of Quraysh about your story? And Abu Lahab he thought this would be the end of al-Ummah. Something so outlandish to him, how could anyone believe it? So he went before the Quraysh, and he said, yes, I went to Bayt al-Maqdis and came back and so forth, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 happened. And one of them, he said, what you actually said all these years before was very easy to digest, but now I think this is khalas, this will be the end. Who is going to believe you? It takes us a month to go and a month to come back from Bayt al-Maqdis. How can you have done it in one night? And so forth. And then Abu Bakr appeared, radiallahu anhu. And Abu Bakr, it was said to him, your friend, he said he goes to Bayt al-Maqdis and he comes back. Can you believe such a thing? He said, if he said it, I believe it. He said, why wouldn't I? I believe him with something even greater than this. Al-khabar min as-sama'. I believe him from what he tells me comes from the heavens. Why would not I believe that? And from then on, he was known as Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. Then the Siddiq, alladhi yusaddiq, the one who believes. Or kathir al-tasdiq, the one who believes strongly or much. So he's been known as a Siddiq since then. But it was a fitna, it was a trial for many Muslims. Many Muslims actually left Islam that night or that day because of what they could not comprehend, what could not understand. And that was only Bayt al-Maqdis. He didn't even mention the Mi'raj. He's only talking about Jerusalem and back. He didn't mention, the riwayat doesn't mention that he talked about what he saw in the heavens and so forth. But nevertheless, this was something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to him, right? مَا زَاغَ الْبَصُرُ وَمَا طَغَى لَقَدْ رَأَى مِنْ آيَاتِ رَبِّهِ الْكُبْرَى. Right? He was not mistaken, he was not bewildered. He had seen from the greatest signs of his Lord. من آيات ربه الكبرى. The most awesome, the greatest signs of his Lord, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so this great ikram, right, this ennobling of the Prophet ﷺ is not just for him, but it's an ennobling of the ummah. The ennobling of the whole ummah. Because no other Prophet was given something similar to what the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. All of the miracles that the other Prophets had, know that the Prophet ﷺ had something like it, similar, or even greater than it. So Musa ﷺ spoke to Allah and back, so did Muhammad ﷺ. Sayyidina Yusuf was given Shartul Husn. He was given, they say, half of beauty. Prophet ﷺ was given Shatrain, all of beauty. He was more handsome, he was more noble, he was more beautiful than Yusuf alayhi salam. The only reason that it's not mentioned this because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put a sort of hijab, because if people were to see the Prophet ﷺ in his haqiqah, in his reality, they would not be able to fathom it. They would not be able to encompass it. It would be too much, it would be overwhelming. But for Sayyidina Yusuf, he lifted that. For the Prophet ﷺ, in fact, the Sahaba mentioned we couldn't look at him directly. Some of them mentioned when we were standing far away and he's walking, we couldn't tell the difference between him and the horizon because it was all light. We couldn't make him out from far away. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. When he was walking, no one, even if people were taller than him, they couldn't tell that because he appeared taller than everyone else, even though he wasn't. These were all things that were specific to the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And so, when we talk about lessons for us, how do we understand this and how do you make some of these lessons work in our own life? I think it's important what we referred to in the beginning, that we are a nation, an ummah, a community of love and humility, and they go hand in hand. When the Prophet ﷺ mentioned all the other things given to the other prophets, and he was made the beloved, al-Habib, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so via love, via humility, right, via humbleness before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you become a raised nation. تِلْكَ خَيْرُ أُمَّةٍ أُخْرِجَتْ لِلنَّاسِ. Why is it the best community? Why is that? Not because Allah chose us to be. We don't make claims. We don't say we're the chosen people. Just because Allah chose us, khalas, we have become the chosen people. It's mashroot. It's conditional. تَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَتَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ وَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ. If you don't do those three, then you're not khayru ummah, you're not the best community. Right? You uphold truth and you forbid wrongdoing and evil and you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those are the conditions to be the best ummah, the best community. So we're not an ummah, a community that rests on its laurels and say Allah has chosen us and we are the chosen people and everyone else is kind of secondary to us. Rather, we are the ummah of love and humility. Be humble before others, Muslim or non-Muslim. Show them love, show them respect, show them kindness, show them compassion, show them caring, and amazing things will happen. Amazing things happen to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Amazing things happen to the Sahaba, to all of the companions, because of that moral lesson that they learned from the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Despite the adversity, if you really imbibe these, I don't want to call them stories because we think story like a myth, like some type of fable, but they're not. They're reality. This is what we described here is a reality. It's not some fable that happened like, some mythical place. It actually happened more or less as the way as we described according to the riwayat. And the idea that it's been preserved for us even 1400 years later is so we can draw lessons from it. Men and women traveled vast expanses of desert and spent sleepless nights just to get these riwayat, these narrations that people like us, sitting very comfortably, in a heated place, and we can all just read it in one compact place to benefit from. But much work was behind it. Much sacrifice was behind it. So nothing that's really worthwhile, nothing that we really want to go after is going to be worth it unless we put some sacrifice, we put some time. So I'm very pleased that the people here in Fawakih, they're all learning Arabic. You've chosen the hard way in some sense. And it's kind of the easier thing to just read all the books that we want in English about the Islamic tradition or fiqh or theology and so forth. But when you read it via the language it was revealed in, it's a completely different scenario. And those of you who have even studied a little bit, maybe a few months, you're starting to pick up on that. And remember, language, it's a type of formal means to gain access to thought, to ideas. And if the thought and ideas of the most blessed thoughts and ideas are in a particular language, namely Arabic, then why would I not spend time and sacrifice learning that language for me to have access to that? Because remember, there's no really translation of language to language. Most linguists acknowledge this. The most that you can get is one person's particular interpretation of the meanings of a particular language and putting them in another language. So it's giving you a shade of the meaning. A translation will always be a shade of meaning. It's not a translation. Can't be. It's not possible. It's giving you some shade according to the translator, who's interpreting it on your behalf, which may be prone to error, may not. But as you know, the Arabic language is such a language of many meanings, of many, as one linguist put it, significances. So there could be primary meanings, but there are shades of meaning you can only pick up if you have access to the language itself. So I encourage all of you to continue with your study of the language. You will find that not only will it open doors for you in understanding the Quran, but I think it will open doors for you in understanding yourself and reality. Right? It's not a mistake, it's in the Arabic language. The Arabic language still has secrets that have not been penetrated, and you can spend a whole lifetime studying it, and still those secrets, can become more accessible to you as you go along. So I thank you all for listening. I hope I didn't take too long. Jazakumullah khair. I hope there's some benefit in it, and hopefully tomorrow we'll have some sessions, I think, reading from Ghazali's Ahya on Bab al-Athkar wa Da'wat, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
For Shaykh Waleed, taking us on that beautiful story and journey of the Prophet ﷺ. We had a few minutes. If anybody wanted to, should we entertain some questions? Or,
It's up to you.
we could entertain maybe a few questions if anybody had some. And then we can, if anyone needs to make wudu, and we will be praying right to conclude for those who haven't prayed Isha. So if anyone needs to make wudu, they can, quietly go out. The bathrooms are on the end of the hallway for the men, and on the left, right outside the door, the first set of doors for the women. So you can do that. We can entertain a few questions, and then if you have any announcements, Ismail.
Assalamu alaikum.
One question I was thinking of, when Shaitan refused to make to bow down to Adam, like sajda to Adam, Allah Ta'ala said, مَا لَكَ أَن تَتَكَبَّرَ فِيهَا فَخْرُجْ. So Allah Ta'ala already cursed Shaitan from that moment. So how did he have access to go into Jannah later on to, convince them to have the fruit of the tree? That always perplexed me.
One thing about that period of time, as it were, is we can't think of it as having sort of the same rules and sharia and all the things that we expect now. And as we mentioned, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enabled Adam and ennobled him by going down to the paradise. And so the idea of shaitan influencing him even in heaven, even after he did that, it's one of the asrar, one of the secrets that I don't have an answer that I can give you. But all I can say is not all of those things that happened in that time, even before there was nubuwwah, even before there was prophethood, are going to submit to like our understanding of jaza and reward and punishment and so forth. Wallahu a'lam. Yani, there are some minority opinions that say that the Jannah of Adam is a different Jannah than the Jannah of paradise. So it was kind of a type of Jannah, but not the Jannah. That's one opinion. Others say no, it was exactly Jannah to Adn is Jannah, the same Jannah. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed, even after this shaitan, to have some influence in that Jannah. Wallahu ta'ala subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes?
So you mentioned the 10 animals that will be there.
Mm-hmm.
I get asked this question a lot, people, how they love their pets in this world. In Islam, what was the purpose for animals? Why were they created? If you guys were created,
They are created for us. يعني for example, والخيل والبغال والحمير لتركبوها وزينة ويخلق ما لا تعلمون. Right? So he created birds of animals of burden that you ride, like horses and mules and donkeys. لتركبوها, so that you can ride on them. وزينة, and also as a type of adornment in this life. ويخلق ما لا تعلمون, and he creates that which you do not know. In other words, other modes of transportation that you don't even know about yet. Some of them mentioned this is like an indication of the modern plane and train and cars and things of this sort. So our idea of stewardship on this earth is that everything on this earth for the human being, for man, is at his disposal, but as a trust, not for him to manipulate and not to usurp, and not to manipulate in a manner that does not preserve it for future generations. So that means the animals that are on this earth, the trees, the rivers, the mountains, all of the natural resources, they're all there for one of the purposes of life is for us to cultivate life on this earth. To worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is one of the primary reasons we're here, and also to cultivate this earth. But cultivate in a manner that's commensurate with the prophetic ideal, where it's stewardship and not manipulation. Not taking things and manipulating them and putting them to our use merely for our use, but rather in a sustained way. Nowadays they call these things sustainable development, and we had that long time ago. The idea that even the word development is problematic, in the sense that you're kind of taking these raw materials and making something out of it, but at the same time you manipulate it in such a manner that it's no longer preserved for future generations, which is antithetical to Islam. So even all of the animals that are here, like the cows and the sheep and so forth, they're there for us to eat, they're there for us to sustain ourselves. So are the animals that we ride upon and that are used for work, but also in a manner that doesn't abuse the animals, that doesn't cause harm to them. And they're there for our use in this life. And they're there as a trust, as an amana. So there's some debate. Generally speaking, the Muslim theologians, they say animals don't really have souls in the sense that, like we do. Like they kind of have mudrika, like they have souls that can perceive sort of ethical and moral responses and things like this. And there's some minority opinions that say, the camel that spoke to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and complained about its owner, that it was cursing it and abusing it, that either that was a miraculous thing that Allah gave it the ability to speak at that time, or there is some type of something there. And the Quran acknowledges it as much, right? And when it says everything makes tasbih of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَلَكِنْ لَا تَفْقُهُونَ تَسْبِيحَهُمْ. But you don't understand how they're doing it. So the whales in the sea and the birds chirping and so forth, this is all types of hymning of praises of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but in a manner that we may or may not understand. So animals definitely are divine creatures in the sense that they are divinely created and they have their hurma, they have their sanctity, and it's not merely there for us to abuse. When I see small kids, like, it's not so much in this country, but unfortunately in the Middle East, throwing rocks at cats and things like that and abusing animals. And one time I was in a zoo and they had cigarette butts throwing at the lion. It's just, it shows you a sick society. It shows you that people kind of really don't get it about, that these animals are here as a trust and as an amana, something for us to take care of, not to abuse. So
not all dogs go to heaven.
This ascension and the experience that the Prophet had, we have heard that it is also in our prayer when we do the atiyat, that is recreation of that conversation that the Prophet had with Allah, and that this is our part of that experience.
The tahiyyat, yani.
Yes.
Well, we give salam to the Prophet ﷺ directly in tahiyyat. We say, Assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabi wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And then we give salam to Ibadullah Salihin and all of the Prophet Muhammad and Ibrahim alayhim salam, yani Salah al-Ibrahimiyya. But a direct connection to the Mi'raj, it's possible, but I haven't really seen anything specific about that.
That conversation, the atiyat and the way it was done was, some say that it is actually the conversation, the part of it what he had and we repeated, but you have not.
Possible, but I'm not aware of that. Fadl.
One thing fascinates me about Islam, Raj, and as you said, there are lots of blessings came with it. One of the blessings came is the prayer. That we had actually the opportunity to experience the Mi'raj. Muhammad said that Salatu Mi'raj al-Mu'minin. That Salah is the Mi'raj of the Mu'min.
No.
So from the very Mi'raj came something, an opportunity for us to attend the Mi'raj.
It's true. Even though the Prophet ﷺ, it was both physical and spiritual, but while that sort of physical experience may not be available for us, but the spiritual one, the Mi'raj and the prayer, it is the experience. The Salah is the most important thing that you have to do. Not because it's an obligation and you're burdened with it, right? And the Quran acknowledges as much, وَمَا هِيَ كَبِيرَةٌ إِلَّا عَلَى الْخَاشِعِينَ. It's a kabira, it's a burden, except to whom? Al-khashi'een. So those who are benefiting from the prayer, they have khushu'ah, they understand what the prayer is about, it's a munajah. And munajah means conversation, means secret inner conversation that's available 24/7 for the 5 prayers and outside of the 5 prayers. Yani it's always there for us. Tomorrow we'll talk more about it, about dhikr and da'wat, but this open channel with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is, like you said, it is the Ma'raj. It is a way to ascend.
There are some questions
From the sisters.
Take a few from the sisters, and then
that's one of the big secrets of Islam, like below, is it's mentioned frequently in the Quran, and it's mentioned as a source of, it's the preserved tablet, but the source of where the Quran, I guess, came from. And so I was wondering if there's any further information about what happened when he went to that.
The Lawh al-Mahfuz is a possible interpretation. The riwayah says Sarif al-Aqlam, which is the sound of the pen's writing, like, like sort of a whispering type of sound. So they said that's a possible interpretation, Lawh al-Mahfuz, or the writing of people's deeds as they're being recorded. So the riwayah doesn't, in my knowledge, doesn't mention anything more specific about that.
any other things? Yes.
The story regarding this, prior to the Prophet led all the prophets in prayer at the Al-Aqsa. So when I understand that when he ascended to the heavens and he met Sayyidina Adam, Sayyidina Adam asked, was the prophet sent? But I understand this, he led all the prophets in prayer. So when Sayyidina Adam
Good question. Good question. The order is not clear also, because some of the ulama, they said I believe the Suyuti is one of them, he said that the prayer was actually after he came back down. And what you mentioned just now is one of the reasons why they think that, because he would not have asked about that. Or he could have still led them in prayer first, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made them in a state where they had to ask. They didn't see him, they only sensed him, that someone was coming. They did not actually physically see the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They had a sense he was there. And then when they saw him, then they recognized who he was.
So it could be that Abu Ayyub al-Nabi, that is he summoned to the heavens instead of meaning like the Ba'atha, That's what
She's asking about when after he led them in prayer and they know he led them, then he went up. What happened?
When he asked him in the heavens, has he been summoned? It means like, has he been summoned to come up to the heavens?
Mumkin. I haven't heard that one, but that's possible. Another one that I just remembered now. Also, they said that when he met them in the heavens, that was sort of a spiritual manifestation of them, not really them. But when he led them down in prayer, that was them. Allah brought them back, except for Isa alayhi salam, because he never died to begin with. So he actually saw him in body and spirit in the second heaven. Wallahu a'lam. And Uqila Sayyidina Idris also in the same category, but that's another story.
Question here, and then we'll go.
You said Adam alayhi salam, his fall was not a disgrace, it was an honor.
Mm-hmm.
He was placed as
No.
But ayah that you mentioned is ayah, that ayah comes before Adam alayhi salam and his wife slip from because shaitan's waswasa. So,
In order of the Quran, not necessarily in order of time.
but it's like the same story.
That's not. It's not necessary. Not even fardan. Let's say that's true. Yani, do we say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like had high hopes for Adam and then he made a mistake and he didn't know what was going to happen? And la abadan. La abadan. We don't. Our Islamic narrative is not. It's not a fall. We don't have the idea of a fall. It's the idea of this is istikhlaf. He was made a khalifa, and think of it this way: when sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala He engages the prophets in a way that there's a greater lesson or wisdom to be learned from it. I'll give you a smaller example. With the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one time he was leading the prayer, and then he had finished, and then a man known as Dhul Yadayn, the man with the two long arms, because he had long arms. And in the majlis, people who were behind him were included people like Umar, Abu Bakr, or Ali. And then he said to the Prophet ﷺ, أَقَصِرَتِ الصَّلَاةِ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ أَمْ نَسِيتَ? Has the prayer been shortened or did you forget? So it was a 4 rak'ah prayer, maybe he played 3. And the Prophet ﷺ, they said, he described what he did and he had his head on his chin like this and looked upset. And he said, كُلُّ ذَلِكَ لَمْ يَكُنْ. He said, none of that happened. And he didn't acknowledge initially that there was some sahu in the salah. But the way we understand that sahu, we could think, how can the Prophet ﷺ forget how many rak'ahs he was doing? How's that? Because he's like the Prophet ﷺ, right? But the way we look at it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ansahu. Lam yansa walakin Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ansahu. Right? Those who take Arabic, what's the difference? He was made to forget, right? So he was made to forget. Otherwise, how would we know how to do sujood as-sahw? Where would that come? Unless it actually happened to the Prophet ﷺ. How would we know the value of tawbah, of repentance, and that it's actually a constant state for us? Tawbah is not like a one-time deal, when you go to Hajj, Yom Arafah, Ya Rab, astaghfirullah, and then you go home and you're done. La, tawbah is every day. Tawbah is every instant. Every moment we need to make tawbah. We're always making mistakes. So the state hatta of the highest awliya also is partly tawbah, repentance. And so the greatest epitome of tawbah was that of Adam alayhi salam. We would not know that lesson had it not been for that. And then how the manifest blessings that come from tawbah, he honored him. Wasn't a disgrace, he was honored by it.
I wasn't thinking of disgrace, I was just saying, how come that order is set?
Yeah, no, that's, hope I answered your question.
What do we know about why Beit al-Maqdis generally was the place, as opposed to Mecca, Medina, any other city for the Mi'raj? Is there any connection in terms of the temple of Sulaiman being also in that location, connected our belief with the Mi'raj?
Well, I'll answer the second half first. The so-called Temple of Sulaiman, that's actually for us Masjid al-Aqsa. We don't call it that. Yani, the plain, the area itself, Bayt al-Maqdis, right, that Allah describes in the Quran, وَبَرَكْنَا حَوْلَهُ, and we place blessings around him, around that place. That Bayt al-Maqdis, regardless of the buildings that are actually there. So it's not the edifice that's built there, but the place itself. That's why we call it Bayt al-Maqdis, that sacred place, or that sacrosanct place. And so Sulaiman did build a ma'bad, he built a temple there. And then later on the Umayyads built Al-Aqsa and Al-Sakhra, Masjid al-Sakhra and so forth. But for us, the holiness, the sanctity of that place is the actual area, not the buildings that may be there. So we don't see the Temple of Sulaiman as a Jewish temple. We see it as a mosque. It's a masjid for us. So the idea of, as the Jews say that we need to destroy it and bring back the Temple of Sulaiman, we would say it's already standing there. That's supposed to be your temple. That's what superseded it. That's the masjid, that's supposed to be there. So Bayt al-Maqdis has that, that special place for us. And I think the ummah is suffering many ways, but one of the ways it's suffering is when, one of the the greatest places for us and the most sacred places in the state that it's in, it's going to affect the ummah. There's going to be a sort of collective sort of pain, of sickness. And part of that is the state that Aqsa is in, that it's currently facing. And I think, inshallah, when that burden is lifted, when it's liberated, bi'Iznillah ta'ala, that things will be different for this ummah. Inshallah.
So you didn't touch upon the dimension of time, the realm of time. As far as we know, that his ascension and coming back, it happened such that the water was shaking and so forth, and it didn't stop vibrating when he came back. That he was in a dimension where time was not a factor.
Right.
Well, we need time in this earth for, urgency of our buddhi, our everything is time, and so on and so forth. When he goes to the realm of outside of what we're bound with, time doesn't really matter anymore. How do we understand that in relation to akhirah? Or do we know, can we gather anything from that story in terms of like in akhirah, because what does time matter anymore, right? After you've left this world, it's infinity, basically.
Right. No, that's a very, very good question, very astute question. Time is actually all that we have. That's the whole thing. If you understand that the time that you have here on this earth, that's the whole story, and that's what you should be worried about, because it's finite. And finite means it's deficient. And if it's deficient, it means that you shouldn't be spending too much time about things that are not important for something that is infinite, as you mentioned. So some of the ulama, even like Ghazali, he talks about how if you want to convince someone, even just from a purely intellectual point of view, why would you spend what would considered an instant compared to infinity, wasting it, when all you have to do is certain things right, lay down your seeds and then you harvest it for the next life, which is infinite. And you're right. Remember that the next life is perfection. And perfection means that you'll never run out of time, because that's a deficiency. So it's almost as if the passing of time in this life is a clear indication, a clear evidence and proof and dalil that this life is really trivial, in a sense that we shouldn't waste our time doing things that is not going to prepare us for the next life. As we said in the khutbah today, it's dar mamar wa laysa dar maqar. It's a passing through place, and it's not a place that we set down firm roots and think we're going to be here forever, because we can pass out anytime. So perhaps in the Mi'raj, certain events, in fact, towards the end of days type of period, time will go by very fast. That's actually one of the signs of the Day of Judgment, that time will appear to be moving faster. And in reality, maybe time isn't moving faster, but the way people are using their time, the barakah of the time is not there. Even to the extent where it gets, when the Prophet ﷺ mentions near the close to the end of days, where the year will be like a month, and the month will be like a day, and the day will be like an hour. Clear indication that the slippage of time away from you is a sign of lack of barakah. And the ability to do many things in even a small amount of time is a sign of barakah. I remember previous nations, they had longer lifespans than us. Nuh alayhi salam, his da'wah was of 950 years. Not how long he lived, his da'wah, 950. And after all that time, how many people did he get? A handful, 13, 14, that followed him. But yet, one of the blessings of this ummah is that in a short lifespan, with few deeds, relatively speaking, we have all of this that Allah can give us. And even some of the narrations indicate when Nuh was told, alayhi salam, the ummah of Muhammad is going to live like 60, 70 years only. He's like, that's it. He's like, I would have spent it in sujood.
Wow.
The whole time in sujood.
Wow.
That's all they have. No opportunity to sin.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh Waleed. It's clear everyone has a lot of questions. Inshallah, Shaykh Waleed is here with us till Sunday. He'll have his last session will be Sunday morning. Then he'll be heading to Allentown with the Sakina program there, where he teaches weekly. So those who live near Allentown, make sure to connect with Sister Sumaya so that you can attend those programs. we have, if you want to attend for the rest of the weekend, you can register for the weekend program. So it'll be tomorrow from 1 to 4. You'll have sessions on from Ihya Ulumuddin on remembrance, and then we'll be talking about remembrance and supplication. The second session will be tomorrow night from 7 to 9, also here. And then the last session with Shaykh Waleed will be Sunday morning from 9 to 10:30 a.m. So if you want to register for that, you can do that on the Fawakih website and just join us tomorrow at 1 o'clock. We also have next month on the 31st of January, we have a special guest joining us from also New Jersey. Seems like it's a place of ulama, becoming a place of ulama now. It seems to go migrating there. Shaykh Abdurrahman Ahmed, he's also a very special teacher. She was raised in Pakistan, although he's from an American convert background. His father is a scholar in Pakistan, and he is a hafiz. He's an imam of an institute, of a masjid in Trenton, New Jersey, also of an institute. He's amazing scholar. He'll be with us for the weekend, 31st, 1st and 2nd. His wife is also an alima, so we're blessed to have her with him, and she'll be doing some sister sessions. So keep an eye out for that as well. And lastly, we just want to end with a nasheed from one of our students here at the Winter Intensive, Brother Adil. And then if anyone needs to make wudu, please do so. We'll pray immediately afterwards.
So your year-long program starts when here?
Yes, the year-long courses start in January, end of January, inshallah, for anyone interested in joining that. Many of you are in the course. If anyone else wants to join, you can speak to Brother Ismail. It's a year-long course here. We have it in other locations as well for people who are looking for a place near their city.
Through the night we lay, through the day we pray, worshipping Allah every night, every day. Through the rows we stand, hands up in the air, to find a way to Him. Through the days we laugh, understand and tap into in our hearts, ease our pain we ask. Ya Allah, I pray, make my life every day to remember Allah, every night, every day to remember Allah, every night, every day. In my life I've wronged, understand my thoughts crawl into my heart. Hear these words I sought, speak into the heart. Praise Allah, it's a start. Only He is the one, none but Him, He's Allah. Only He is the one, none but Him, He's Allah. Through the days we laugh, understand and tap into in our hearts, ease our pain we ask. Ya Allah, I pray, make my life every day to remember Allah, every night, every day to remember Allah, every night, every day. Through the night I pray, in my heart is pain, don't know how to say, but I pray every day to ask you why I am full of shame. Ya Allah, I pray, help and guide me to you. Ya Allah, I pray, help and guide me to you. Through the days we laugh, understand and tap into in our hearts. Ease our pain, we ask, Ya Allah, I pray. Make my life every day to remember Allah, every night, every day to remember Allah, every night, every day. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
I think you just shift it.
Allah.